We are all aware of the evil Superman trope. The trope that takes the biggest, strongest superhero that is supposed to represent hope and make them evil. The trope that falls in line with characters like Homelander, Omni-man, and heck, even Injustice Superman. The trope that dared to ask, what if Superman was evil? Pretty self-explanatory. While this characterization is mostly not done well, I'm looking at you two, I pause to ask, what if it was? While I assume many of you may be tired of the idea by now, and are excited for a more hopeful character like in that Superman movie, what if the trope was done well? I mean, like, pretty great actually. So great in fact, that it presented this Superman figure and explored his humanity on a deeper level. Like his human flaws, the fragility of his psyche, and the crushing weight of his responsibilities. And what if it was told in the 37-issue comic series? Well, I have just the answer for you. I introduce to you Mark Waid's Irredeemable, which debuted in April 2009, tells the story of the Plutonian, a Superman-like figure who was once the world's greatest hero, suddenly snaps and becomes its most feared villain, leaving the remaining superheroes scrambling to stop him. Pretty bland setup, I know, especially nowadays, but hold on, let this man cook, there is some missing substance, so let me get you on board. What makes Irredeemable truly special is, oddly enough, the Plutonian himself. It's how the series dives deep into the psyche of the Plutonian, exploring the complex reasons behind his descent into villainy. This isn't just another what if Superman was bad story, this is a deeply human tragedy. The Plutonian's fall is slow, painful, and inevitable, a series of events that cause him to break. His motivations are what set him apart from other similar characters. It's this unique approach that sets Irredeemable apart. It might be hard to imagine readers sympathizing with this character, especially since the first issue starts with him going on a rampage and murdering his ally, the Hornet, and his entire family. From the start, you can see he's presented as a terrifying force of destruction. Something great about this series is how it manages to balance that fear with glimpses of his humanity. Through flashbacks and the investigation from the remaining heroes into his past, we get to see the man he once was. I also really like how there was a choice to make the Plutonian's change be physically visible, as it helps with the hero's perspective of him as they try figuring out what happened with him through flashbacks that show you an entirely different person with a change in suit, hairstyle, and demeanor. Kind of like a change you would see between Clark Kent and Superman. An issue I would say I do have with this series, and this just might be me, but I think there's too many superhero characters with weird and forgettable names, and it's just too much for me to remember. But hey, like I said, that just might be me. Nevertheless, the heroes have flashbacks of a good Plutonian and they tend to find clues that could explain his snap. His backstory is revealed, showing us how his life was shaped by multiple events. Like as a child, he was adopted by a mentally unstable woman who was being watched by aliens who were studying human emotions. These aliens created the Plutonian with incredible powers. When she couldn't cope with the responsibilities of being a mother again, since she murdered her last baby, she ended up taking her own life, leaving the Plutonian to be passed around through foster care. Eventually, he ended up with a couple who recognized his powers and guided him to be a hero. They gave him the name Plutonian and his real identity as Dan Hartigan. Tragedy struck again when his adopted parents died in a car accident, leaving Dan to raise himself, always feeling obligated to be humanity's protector. So what happened? Well, after an unfortunate set of events that start making Dan feel more rejected and disliked by the public, he finally decides to snap and lose all sense of duty. His only desire of helping others turned into his justification for committing atrocities, that being destroying his entire home city and civilians, lobotomizing his sidekick, killing other superhero teammates, and even sinking Singapore. That's just the start of it. He does way worse. I guess you could say this guy seems irredeemable. But to go more into detail on what could have possibly gone wrong to make him turn, well, first of all, his identity was revealed to the public by his girlfriend, who felt lied to after he revealed he was the Plutonian. Which is pretty messed up considering this guy is probably like the strongest superhero with multiple villains now knowing his real identity and coming after him. Looks like he won't be able to start a family anytime soon. Alongside this, with his public image becoming heavily criticized, Dan finally snaps when he ends up making a tiny mistake. Apparently, the Plutonian recovered a piece of alien tech that researchers used to accidentally create a virus. This virus ended up killing multiple children, leaving the Plutonian to try his best and keep his involvement a secret. He ultimately fails as he is confronted by his sidekick, who was told by the scientist working on the virus. A sidekick Plutonian truly appreciated since he always looked up to him and never thought of him doing any wrong. This final event caused the Plutonian to lose his mind and become evil, as he believes criticism of him not being a real hero are true. I guess you could say Plutonian's downfall could be attributed to his own mistakes. The pressure of trying to be perceived as perfect inevitably led him to being crushed. His own fragility and solutions caused this greater isolation as the public liked him less and less. And after having nothing to lose, he felt no purpose. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is the evil Superman trope done right. Mark Waid was really cooking in 2009. The Plutonian is pretty much Superman if everything went wrong, like if the public despised Superman for causing destruction and if Lois Lane left him for having a double life. And I like it. This is where Irredeemable excels. It doesn't present this downfall as a sudden, uncharacteristic event. Instead, it shows the slow unraveling of a hero who can no longer cope with his own failures. And I'm gonna just say real quick, I think the Plutonian is a better Injustice Superman than the real Injustice Superman could ever be. I really hope that makes sense. What's also great about this characterization is how some elements of the Plutonian remain and are prevalent throughout the run. Even in his worst moments, he craves companionship, laments his isolation, and remains obsessed with this idea that deep down, everyone will end up alone, as he lays beaten next to the grave of his sidekick. Anyways, throughout the run, the superheroes do a lot of stuff to try and beat the Plutonian, like team up with his enemies, transport him off-world, and even have a one-on-one fight, in which the Plutonian loses. And I think that's great. A world where the strongest superhero manages to be physically outmatched, but can still remain intimidating. The story never lets you forget that this once was a man who just wanted to do good. Anyways, in the end, as the title suggests, the Plutonian is irredeemable, with his only path to redemption being rebirth. The heroes manage to kill the Plutonian by overloading his body with enough energy and teleporting his essence to another universe, where it can be used to create something great. From the details I've given you, you could argue some of the aspects of the Plutonian have been since echoed in other characters, like Homelander from The Boys. It really speaks to the writing by Mark Waid and how this character managed to stand the test of time, which I guess a lot of you could say was ahead of its time. I'm just glad I was able to read this story and learn more about comics outside of DC, Marvel, and Image. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say. I mostly wanted to share some Irredeemable with you, since I think it's a must read. The ending could have been better, sure, but the journey of the Plutonian makes it all worthwhile. I recommend you to read the story for yourself since I mostly just focused on the Plutonian in this video and didn't really give you much of the story. There's also a companion series called Incorruptible that takes place in the same world, but I haven't read it yet. But I heard it's just as good. And I also think I heard there was plans for Mark Waid to return to the series and continue it, but that was like 2 years ago or something. And I don't know if that's still gonna happen, or if there was like an update, and if there was, can you guys let me know in the comments below? Because hopefully it does. I would like to see what else Mark Waid brings to this series. But I guess he's busy writing DC Comics, so we'll have to wait a minute. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you next time where I talk about more shit.